As Trump continues to target the Smithsonian institutions, the White House published a list of 20 exhibits they considered objectionable or too, quote, woke. On their official website, the Trump administration highlighted material dealing with topics like sexuality, slavery, and immigration in the U.S. One target, artwork from the National Museum of the American Latino with the caption, "My dreams are not illegal." The Trump administration is accusing that artwork of being anti-American. Another piece, an exhibit series on white privilege that really rubbed the Trump administration the wrong way. For what it's worth, in this era of anti-diversity backlash, there's still plenty of data that proves historical racial advantages exist. So it's not exactly a surprise, then, that the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture and the Museum of African Art are really under the microscope. Museums have always been places to confront the past. They weren't invented to make whoever happened to be in power happy. They're supposed to expand our understanding, help us appreciate those who are different from us, and teach future generations about the mistakes of the past so that, you guessed it, the same patterns don't repeat. Historians are warning us. This isn't about a healthy debate over the best paintings to hang or inventors to credit. For Trump, it seems to be about controlling who and what is American altogether, starting with an already years-long campaign to whitewash America's original sin, slavery. Joining us now is Nikole Hannah-Jones, investigative reporter at the New York Times Magazine. She's also the creator of the 1619 Project, which won a Pulitzer Prize. The project looks at U.S. history through a different lens, showing how slavery and its legacy are central to the nation's founding and development. Nikole, good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. So break it down for us. What is actually behind these attacks from the president?
Well, I think your opening framing is correct. It is about trying to control our understanding of the past in order to control the present. That's why you go after cultural institutions. That's why you go after museums. And that's why you try to be the one who decides how we learn history and what history do we learn. And really, we have to look at these policies and this effort to subvert what is considered the greatest museum system in the world, is that race is being used as a means of political power. It's being used to distract working white people from unpopular economic policies by making them feel racially ascendant and powerful. That's what this is about, and I think we have to be clear.
Nikole, I want to play some sound of a guest we had on last week who was defending the use in Oklahoma of the PragerU educational, if you call it that, curriculum, a state senator and former teacher. Let's play that, and I want to get your response to it.
Christopher Columbus is an academic figure, is a person from history, and it's talking about how slavery was all over the world, which is absolutely true. And I think it highlights the atrocities of slavery. This is a video that I knew I wouldn't have to worry about it having any type of inappropriate content on it. I had viewed the video beforehand. And we have many other things that are certainly political in other classrooms in New York. There's the 1619 Project, things like this that are very controversial as well, that talk about how slavery was basically the reason for the American Revolution was to solidify and protect slavery, which is not true. It was for independence from another nation. So I think it's interesting that we are having this conversation when we've been having all these other contents around the classroom.
Nikole, what do you make of the argument he's making there? I mean, we had showed him this PragerU clip in which Christopher Columbus describes how, being taken as a slave is better than being killed, and says he doesn't see a problem. This is created by PragerU, an organization I know you are familiar with. And then he kind of compares this effort we're seeing from the right to transform public media and education to the point where that state where he is right now is planning to have people take these Are You Woke quizzes from New York and California if you're trying to be certified as a teacher in Oklahoma. And he's comparing what they're doing to your work. What's your response?
Well, I mean, clearly he knows, and we all know that he's being disingenuous. And I think we just have to stop pretending otherwise. The state of Oklahoma attempted to ban the teaching of the 1619 Project from the classroom. So his kind of both siding this, it's nonsensical. But let's also be clear. The 1619 Project, the majority of that project was written by academic historians. Khalil Muhammad, a historian at Princeton. Taya Miles, a historian at Harvard. Martha Jones, a historian at Johns Hopkins. Kevin Cruz, a historian at Princeton. Carol Anderson, an historian at Emory University. We can go on and on. There are 1,000 endnotes in the 1619 Project versus a clearly ideological project that is not written or vetted by academic historians. You can't equivocate those things. They're not the same. And the same people who went on, a warpath against the 1619 Project and what they call critical race theory are now perfectly fine with using unvetted, ideological, unacademic learning modules in the classroom. So we know that it's hypocrisy. And I just don't think anyone who actually reads the 1619 Project and looks at who wrote it can compare those two things. But it's not about that. It's not about speaking to people's logic. I watched that clip and he said several times, right? It's about reason. It's about logic. But this is what the right is doing right now. The thing that it says it's fighting against is actually the thing that it's trying to put forth.
Let me go back, if I can, Nicole, to the point that you said earlier, which is about how rewriting or perhaps controlling the history of this country, or who understands it, or how we understand our history, is about controlling the present. Explain what you mean by that to our viewers in kind of like real terms, right? We all understand that kind of understanding history is important for the reasons we outlined in our setup to this interview. But how does the rewriting of this, how does the actual erasure of some of the art or our understanding of some of these pieces there help those in power today maintain that power structure? Because doesn't it also draw more spotlight to the fact that they're trying to erase history and that they want to eliminate from our collective understanding the faults, the mistakes that we have made as a country?
Sure. So just giving you an example. So we know that some of the very first executive orders that this administration issued were against diversity and inclusion efforts, against civil rights efforts, and actually trying to recast white Americans as the primary victims of racism in this country. Well, you can't learn the history that is portrayed in the National Museum of African American History and Culture and understand that Black people were enslaved for 246 years and then had to go through 100 years of racial apartheid, and that actually we've only had full legal and codified equality for 57 years in this country, and then think that white people are legitimately the ones who are being most discriminated, the white majority in this country. So in order to be able to justify these regressive policies, you have to hide the true history of this country. You have to act like slavery was just a blip. Most white people had nothing to do with it. We passed these civil rights laws and now everyone has equality. And so only the people who want to talk about race are the actual racists. That is how you are able to justify the policies that we're seeing right now. If history didn't matter, if they didn't understand that being able to control the narrative and how we see themselves, you wouldn't see so much effort being placed in what art gets to be displayed in museums, what histories get to be told. What do we go into an art museum for? It humanizes people. It helps us understand people who are different than us. It gives us empathy for different types of humanity. You don't want that type of empathy if you're planning to pass policies that are going to hurt other people who are not the people in power. So these things are always connected. And in fact, I was speaking with historian David Blight just yesterday. And I asked, have we ever, is there a correlate in American history to the executive trying to take power of our universities, of our art museums, of our history museums in the United States? And he said there is no correlate in our history. If we want to understand what's happening, we have to look at the Third Reich. That should be extremely chilling. This is David Blight, Pulitzer Prize winning historian. He's not hyperbolic. He's not someone who, is just out here trying to make kind of political aspersions. This is an academic historian saying that we should be very concerned because the only other place that we can look to understand what's happening here is when Germany was falling to Nazism.
Nikole Hannah-Jones, good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight.